conservatives in the Supreme Court.
I gotta mute you for a minute. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dronetek Stumbles Around in the Dark Blindly. So yeah, folks, tonight we're going to do a little chat, debate, depends on how you look at it, about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if you've been following this at all in the news, then or I should say, if you've been following it on X / Twitter, then you have seen a lot of recent stories about companies like Delta Airlines putting wokeism and racial quotas above the safety of their passengers, quite literally. And along with some other companies, not just them, pretty much all of them at this point are buying into this, what is a far left Marxist, socialist, communist, however you want to say it, based system. And somehow it's now in all of our institutions. There's a video. I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. Let me see. Before I introduce our crew here, let me see if I can find this very quickly. Oh, geez. Of course I lost it. I'll pull it up here during our discussion, but I'm going to go ahead and pull these guys in.
That's scary.
Everybody, hello. You're live on the air right now. I've just told everybody what we're going to talk about. I've let them know it could get spicy, a little trigger warning. And I'll go ahead and...
not us.
Well, we have some special guests here. And everybody, I know you're all here. I really would like if you had your camera on. I mean, if you have one, you should have it on if you're in this, I think. We're probably going to start enforcing that here soon. But right now, at least we have some debate opponents. So I'll go ahead and let it go.
Forcing webcams is part of our DEI program.
Right. So, yeah, we're going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, or as I like to call it, less or no white people, exclusion of white people, and inequality of white people. Like the whole thing seems geared towards essentially discriminating against white people in order to prop up other groups, and I don't think that's the way to go about it. And we'll see what everyone else thinks, but just let's do a quick introduction of everyone. We'll start with RW, and then just go down the list.
Hi, I'm RW. I'm part of the Discord server, and I enjoy being here for group cohesion and talking about whatever's happening in the world and figuring out different people's worldviews.
Word up, man. Me too. Atlas.
Yeah, man.
Atlas is somebody who was banned from the server recently for, we'll say,
Twice.
Dubious reasons. Yeah, twice for, I would say dubious
spicy.
reasons. Because I want opposition in here, and we had a little conflict on that, but I think that's over. We've got Atlas back. It should be interesting. Welcome, Atlas.
Thanks. Thank you for being accommodating too. I'm going to step away once I get this introduction to see if I can accommodate your camera rule. So.
Okay, cool.
That was
who else we got
my
here?
introduction.
Okay, cool.
Now's your introduction.
So wait, so
that was
Atlas,
okay.
you are pro DEI?
Sure, yeah, we'll say I'm pro.
Okay,
if you're con, I'll say I'm pro.
Yeah, okay.
All
Nice.
right, be right back.
Forg.
You want to throw your hat into the ring, Forg?
Forg, I know that you have your own things going on. You want to talk about that at all here before we start? And what your position is?
I don't really know what the things that are going on are, honestly. But my position is I am very much against it, and I don't think it's anti-white. I think it's anti-white and also anti-Asian.
I can bring up some stories here. I wish we still had. I should have done this. I was right up against the wall to get on at 8 o'clock. So I'm going to sift through and find all the stories here. But we have Delta Airlines. There's a lot of examples. The CEO of Delta Airlines, I believe, said his name's Scott Kirby. He's a drag queen. Which, hey, you can be a drag queen if you want. I don't care about. But it's weird that like these people who happen to be drag queens are all of a sudden like getting in these high positions. It's and paired up with kids. Like what's up with that? But so you got DEI, or you got Delta, you got who is it? CVS. A bunch of stuff came out about CVS. We have New Mexico State University, who they just got called out because they're having these special AI programs for engineering students, but it's basically for everybody, literally except for straight white men. You can't get into it. And the excuse that they're using is that it's because the field of AI has been historically underrepresented. Now, just let me pose the question to all of you out there right now. What's the problem with that excuse?
Did
I'm
they
sorry,
say
can you
that the field of AI is underrepresented?
Historically underrepresented, so that's why they have to exclude white men who are straight.
I mean, the problem would be that historically is not a very long period of time.
Exactly.
It's just it's an exaggeration. It's an exaggeration in a sentence.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's just they're just saying the words that they know they need to say to justify what they're doing.
There's also some of the stuff I was looking at today that's happening currently is the state of Florida is basically getting rid of DEI. I've an article brought up from the left basically stating that DEI, this is quoting, DEI has become a popular boogeyman for Republicans as they aim to turn academic institution into places of censorship and conservative ideology. So that's kind of an extreme rebuttal against people that are not interested in what they're seeing because, it's related to the debate topic, it is in violation of civil rights. So it's one of these topics that's definitely taken to extremes on both sides. But what's interesting to me is that when you look at the court cases that are happening, the court cases are ruling in favor of that it is a violation of civil rights and awarding it to the person bringing the case to the court.
All right. So we have that from RW. Basically laying it down right there. What do you think about that? Oh, we got some new people too, apparently. Who is that? I can't read that name.
The Incarnation, Texan D.
Incarnation. Okay.
Welcome, fellas.
And do we got Atlas back yet? Does anybody want to chime in?
I'm here. Logging on. I'm with my camera in just a second.
Incarnation and Texan D. You're welcome to mic in at any time and just say if you want to do intro or not. State who you are. State if you believe that DEI is a violation of civil rights or not. It'd be interesting to see which side you've taken, or if you've even taken one.
Yeah, and I'd also like to ask: has anybody seen the exchange between Mark Cuban, Elon Musk, and some other people about DEI?
I've seen that Cuban's name is all over X at the moment, but I didn't.
Is Mark Cuban the guy from Shark Tank?
Is he from Shark Tank? No, the guy from Shark Tank is Mr. Wonderful. Is that who you're talking about?
I don't know. I just know his face.
Mark Cuban might be from Shark Tank. I'm not sure.
No, Mark Cuban is a guy. Mark Cuban is a guy who owns a basketball team.
Yeah, but he was on.
He looks like he's the guy on Shark Tank.
Oh yeah, he looks like it.
And he owns the Mavericks. That's Mark Cuban. He was on Shark Tank and he owns the Mavericks. That's Mark Cuban.
Oh,
okay,
gotcha.
Well, he's a big proponent of DEI, and he got called out, and he gave a real. Is anybody interested in seeing that? I can. Here.
Yeah, I've heard his reply, but you're more than welcome to post it.
1 second, I'll show you.
If it backs your. If it backs.
Yeah, I feel like this is like it's a great exchange because it really kind of highlights the issue here because let's see here, Elon Musk. Here we go. Here we go. So Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, DEI. Okay, here we go. Here we go.
What?
So, and I'm sharing. You guys can see my screen if you click on that thing, but so I'll just read the article. An explosive turn of events on social media. Tesla CEO Elon Musk publicly shamed Shark Tank star Mark Cuban. There you go. I didn't realize he was
there you go, Ford.
Over his views on DEI in the workforce. The debate was ignited by a post from billionaire hedge fund manager Bill Ackman on X, which lambasted Harvard's DEI policies. So Cuban, who recently sold a majority interest in Dallas Mavericks, but retained operational control of the team, which is interesting if you just think about that, countered Musk's viewpoint with a series of tweets emphasizing the advantages of DEI programs. Good businesses look where others don't to find employees that will put your business in the best possible position to succeed, Cuban said. Let me see if this is actual. Here we go. I want the actual Twitter. We live in a country with very diverse demographics. In this era, we must trust a business can be hard to come business can be hard to come by. People tend to connect more easily to people who are like them. Interesting. Having a workforce that is diverse and representative of your stakeholders is good for business. And he's responding to Elon Musk, who said discrimination on the basis of race, which DEI does, is literally the definition of racism. And so then Mark Cuban goes into equity. Treating people equally does not mean treating them the same.
Yes, that's a very deep thought.
Like,
Okay.
I'm like, what? I made the mistake for a lot of years thinking, everyone's like, yeah, exactly. It's like equity is a core principle of business. What? Like, and that might be for business, but like when we're talking about like the difference between equality and equity, there's a big one. And I pointed out before that, like, you know, not even, what's his face? God, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. He's been out of the news so long. Who's the socialist? Bernie Sanders. God. Bernie Sanders even and he was asked about equity versus equality. First of all, he at first didn't really know what equity was, and then he had to kind of be reminded. He's like, oh, yes, okay. And he's like, oh, yeah, equality is better. I choose equality over equity. So it's like,
right. So
these people...
Quickly, the definition of equity, the state or quality of being just and fair. So that's the difference between equity and equality.
Right, which that's all very subjective, first of all, right? All those things. It's a communist principle. This is like communist. This is a communist kind of way of thinking. And it's kind of weird that it's suddenly like all over the place, along with all this other sort of Marxist-inspired stuff. But he goes on, put your employees in, blah 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 blah, and he goes on and on like this.
Real quick, the tweet. I don't think it's visible on YouTube, man.
They stripped it.
Well, Last Dance is pointing that out in the chat, and it's not visible.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at YouTube right now. It's a big blank screen with us at the bottom.
Oh, because I have to like be on it. Oh, that's so annoying.
Who would have?
Yeah,
who would have?
I can't like
censored
scroll
that?
through it. So I got to do it this way, where nobody, like only the people watching, can see. Sorry about that, everybody. I forgot about that. I wonder if that's a setting I can change in Discord, so that when I'm not on the screen, it keeps streaming anyway.
Atlas has arrived on camera. Thank you, brother.
Made it a policy.
Well, now we can. Okay.
Hold on, I want to read some of these replies to Mark
Yeah,
Cuban.
Well, now it's up on YouTube. Cool.
Right, it's because I just moved it over. I just moved the window over instead of streaming. Because when I'm like scrolling, I can do that like for videos where I just leave it playing. But when I'm scrolling, I can't do it that way, I guess. So one of the ironic things about that, right, is that the Mavericks aren't racially diverse, are they? No, they're not. And you know, people pointed that out to him, and he just kind of blew it off, like, oh, I find the best people for the job. It's like, you don't understand what DEI even is, dude. Like, he doesn't even. These people support DEI. That's what I'm getting to here, is that these people support DEI. They don't even know what it is. They don't understand what it is. So, like, we're here where Elon Musk says the airline industry can't find enough qualified pilots even without insane DEI requirements. And then Cuban comes back. This is a training school. Once they graduate, it's a multi-year process to have an opportunity to pilot for United. Since I'm a nice guy and I want to be fully informed. Hold on, I had to open a different window here. I'll share with you the benefit of the 60 seconds I spent looking for new program work, blah, blah, blah. And then... So here we go. So Cuban's whole thing is that DEI does not undermine meritocracy. There are many examples like the attached that indicate the statement that statement is incorrect. DEI is not worth defending. Let's work together to pursue colorblind mediocrity instead. Meritocracy. I keep saying that. So it's medical school acceptance rates. I want you guys to see this. Damn it. Everybody can't see it at the same time. Let me see if I can just put the link so you guys can see it. There you go. That's what I'm looking at. So that's medical school acceptance rates by MCAT score, GPA, and race ethnicity. So, okay, so this is like, I guess, the percentage of per race and like the complaints that they get. Physicians with complaints, and there's 28% European, 43% African, 36% Latin, 24% Asian. And I think they're saying that. And then if you look at the actual acceptance rates, black are the highest acceptance rates, despite.
Is this pre or post affirmative action?
This is 2013 to 16, this data.
Okay.
And then it's physicians disciplined, European 1%. And this is separate stats, which I believe he put the link to here. He did. And African 1.5% disciplined, Latin 1.9%, and 0.8 Asian. So they're saying that like there's way more disciplined black and Latin, African and Latin. And then physicians with investigations 6.7 to 11. So yeah, and so basically there's higher acceptance rates for these groups, but then you look and then it seems like they're doing a worse job.
So I'm not sure, based on what I've been experiencing on the web, going through and seeing active court cases that are happening, it seems like, or you can go back to the example of I don't even want to say their names because it's gonna make people go into the weeds, but you have had a period of time where DEI seems like it was being used to push out a certain demographic and allow other people to take those job positions by stopping them from getting the chance. But based on court cases that are happening now, that are still in litigation even, companies are seeing that the Supreme Court being on a 6-3 lean towards conservatives, they're losing the court cases. So they're now trying to regroup and figure out how DEI can be actually what DEI is meant to be. Because it's the argument that I would believe would come from people that are for DEI is that it's meant to actually create an equal workplace. But the issues that are happening are examples of how it's a bastardized form of what it says it is. But it's I don't know. Any thoughts?
So yeah, you looked into it and you found that what's happening. So clearly DEI, let's just get this on the table. Does anybody disagree that DEI by its very existence, it has to discriminate racially against white people and Asians?
No, not specifically white people. I would say a majority of whatever population is the majority at the time, it would discriminate against whatever so like in China, it would probably just discriminate against like Han Chinese, and in America, they would discriminate for white people. That'd be the pattern.
Whatever the majority is.
So you think, okay, so you think if, let's go, 50 years, 75, 100 years down the road, and now, it's a majority Hispanic, you think that suddenly that it wouldn't apply to them? It's not going to be 100 years. However long it'll take for Hispanics to become a majority.
At some point, the data would change to whoever the majority is at the time.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with Atlas in that DEI in its current form, I would say, is approaching discrimination. I wouldn't necessarily call it outright discrimination, but it's approaching there. But it's the concept and the science behind DEI isn't necessarily that faulty. And in that in majority populations, you'll notice a trend to favor the majority population over the minority population, despite meritocracy being a thing. So DEI tries to avoid that. It does an awful job at it, but DEI in its nature is trying to avoid that very nature where you have a majority population being favored for reasons that aren't meritocracy.
What do you mean by favored?
There will always be
benefits.
Yeah, there will always be some form of tribalism in human nature.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing. So if you have a majority population, say that's all white, there will be a natural sentiment to be biased towards white people.
Okay, what does that look like?
favor.
What does that look like?
It could be as simple as not being exposed to people of other cultures. So you have a natural,
Okay.
a natural. I don't want to say negative, but you have a natural anxiety, if you want to put it to somebody or people who don't know and who are different than you. That is a natural and normal human emotion and thing to do.
What
So
is
if you
something?
apply, Hmm?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Let me put it in 4 terms. All right, you have a business, you're a white guy, and someone rocks up for the job and he's straight gangster, and you have a bias towards him. And if you don't let meritocracy or the person's ability to do the job to outweigh whatever culture he's from, then you're doing it wrong. If you,
Yes.
I don't know if I answered that correctly, but there you go.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would agree with that sentiment. Now, I also think, from a society that the thug has a responsibility to make himself more approachable. You know what I mean? But that's a little bit further down the rabbit hole. But on a surface level, these sort of ideas, these sort of societal structures are normal. They happen everywhere in the world, and they do exist. And this is sort of where the idea of DEI may have taken foothold, even though its current application is less than adequate.
Less than
So
adequate. Is
DEI,
very well
DEI,
worded.
What's that?
That was very
DEI.
well worded.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear.
Go ahead, Ford.
Oh.
You said it's
Okay.
very well worded. Is that what you said, DW?
Yeah, it was very
Forwarded.
I believe it's gonna be
politically worded. In other words, the way that you said it, it's like, in other words, in my bias, I'm looking at it like, damn, they're really failing right now at doing the right thing and being good to people, and you're just saying it's inadequate, not.
So
Yeah, it's inadequate in its application because I don't think that government should be forcing these level of policies. I think I do agree with Mark Cuban that it is good business for a company, right? Without government, implications in it, and this is how it should be done, that companies do look at this sort of thing that we see in societies, and that they do find ways to recruit people of minority groups. I think companies have a responsibility to do that. It's good business.
Wait, if it's good business, then why don't the Mavericks do it?
The Mavericks do it. I mean, there's white people who play. Yeah, they do. There's
they
white
don't.
people who play on. Yes, they do. There's white people who play on the Mavericks. But what we're not going to compare.
There's disproportionately.
Wait, where's the
We're
Asians?
Stop. We're not going to compare right, a professional sport, right? A professional sport which employs quite really not that many people. Yes, it is different because
so when you say hold on, stop. When you say professional sport, what does that mean?
Well,
what does that mean to be a professional sport?
That is the classification of the career that these people have chosen.
No,
However,
but what makes a sport a pro sport? Can you tell me what that is?
Well, you are paid to do the job.
No. But something makes it professional, right?
So you're being paid.
It's the cream of the crop. It's the top.
No, that's not. No, that's not true. You're being paid. No, that's not.
What do you mean that's not true?
You could be a professional football. You can be a professional.
Not just anybody can go apply and be in the Mavericks.
You're missing the point of what I'm trying to say. The word professional, right, in sports means that you are getting paid to do a job. You're being paid to play that sport. So you can be a professional basketball player.
And therefore, they have to hire the best players so they can win.
Let me finish here. Is a basketball player in B League a professional?
Yes.
Great.
Well, they're B League, but you're making my point right now.
Right. So but my point is you don't.
You're making my point that there's two separate leagues because there's two different levels of skill, right?
But they're still professional.
And one gets paid more.
The person in the B League is still playing professional basketball.
Right. But my point, point is that they're going to put the best especially when we're talking about the Mavericks, they're going to put the best person for the job. It doesn't matter about skin color. That makes no difference at all. Diversity makes no difference at all.
And I'm not.
That's why the NBA is mostly black.
Using sports is a stupid analogy, right? Using sports is a stupid analogy.
It's not. It's a perfect analogy. It's
actually
a perfect analogy.
It's a stupid analogy because you're looking. First of all, you're looking at a very, 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 very tiny subset of the population, very tiny subset of the population. So it doesn't reflect the overall population in a very worthwhile manner.
I'm not talking about. But you're missing the point. That's not the point.
No,
the point is that what that that team. They want to be the best. They want to do the best. And diversity, the saying is that diversity is our strength. Diversity is not a strength when you're trying to be the best. Is it?
Yes, it is.
All right.
What are you talking about?
So I think you're conflating, two things. One, we're talking about societal.
So why is the NBA mostly black?
Yes, because
Dronetek, you got to give him a chance to answer.
Yeah. Okay. Do you know how many professional basketball players there are?
I get that. No, I get that.
No.
I
Answer the question. How many?
But
no, answer my question.
that's missing the point. To me, that's missing the point. That's not the point I'm making.
How many professional basketball players are currently employed?
It's a tiny percentage of the population.
Maybe 1,000, right? Maybe 1,000. So how many Americans are currently employed? Hundreds of millions. So if you're going to make a worthwhile comparison, make a worthwhile comparison. Comparing a professional sports team to a corporate structure is completely...
Well, no, wait,
no, stop.
I don't think
Let me
that's
respond.
right.
I have a response. I have a response to that.
I'll respond after you, Dronetek.
All right, after me. I'll make it quick. So each corporation, each company is a very specific, right, set of they're looking for very specific people for a very specific job, and the people they put in, they're trying to do the best and be the best to make the most money. And so if you're going to put people in a position that they're not necessarily qualified for and not the best to do that position, but you're doing it to meet a racial quota, then you're not going to have the best outcome. Just like I was showing in that the data about the doctors. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
What I'd like to say is real quick, please, Incarnation, or do you want to respond real quick? Okay, he muted. Okay, I guess I'll just respond. They may be a small amount of the population, but they have 100 times the influence, thousands of times the influence than a normal person does. So a very, very common argument against the left is, oh, what about, these little black girls that want to go into this profession and they don't have anyone to look up to? What about a little Asian boy who is watching the NBA with his dad and he doesn't see an Asian man playing for him? They have so much more influence than the normal person does. So the fact that they're a small amount of the population, it doesn't really mean much.
Look, right. And my point wasn't.
Can I just answer real quick to this? What he just said.
Yeah.
If any parent is telling their kid of any race that they have any shot of playing any professional sports, they are being disingenuous, irrespective of race. Saying you can make it in the NBA to your kid is fallacious.
Same thing with telling your kid they can be a mermaid.
Saying that you're going to promote more basketball by forcing an Asian kid to play professional basketball, and then you're going to tell an Asian kid, right? Hey, look, there's an Asian playing in professional basketball. You too can be a professional basketball player. You're being disingenuous to your kids.
What about telling a little black girl she can become a mermaid?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Incarnation. Diversity hire is not done in the NFL, and I mean you're saying it's a different category, but it's still a corporation.
So on the corporate side of the NFL, there's definitely diversity hires. 100%.
Yes, I agree.
The stadiums
office
filled with
side,
diversity hires. All of the places that surround a football team where most of the people are employed.
You are correct. I'm agreeing with you, but when it's on the field, there's definitely a point that's made in the fact that they're not willing to diversity hire for their team because they will lose.
The people who are on TV, you have hundreds of thousands of viewers,
and you can extrapolate, or you can spread that out to
companies. Why do we care about professional athletes? You're talking about literally 1,000 people.
It's not athletes. Let's say it's airline pilots.
It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 people.
Great.
Let's say it's airline pilots.
No, it does matter.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, what about airline? Yes,
no, it doesn't. When they have such a big influence. No, it does not.
No, it does not. It really does matter because it's a tiny
doesn't when there are millions of people watching them. There are millions of people watching them, dude. It doesn't matter.
Working in the NBA, they're not going to work in the NBA. It doesn't matter how much influence they have in terms of a workforce. They can influence kids to play the sport, but they're not going to influence them to become professional basketball players. That is nonsense.
Same thing with a mermaid. Same thing with a mermaid. Same thing with a mermaid.
Like, I don't understand why your justification.
Mermaid isn't a profession. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about like a fantasy character.
Right. So the difference here.
Yeah, exactly. So why make them black or white? They're a fantasy character. Yet the left push for a black mermaid or, a completely black watching a character.
I know. Like, you're being so intense by a mermaid. That's the problem.
Like, get
Alright.
off of Twitter, get off of YouTube. It's not a real reflection of the real world, guys.
Right.
Well,
This is
here's a
not
real
what
reflection.
By a
in the real
Here's a
mermaid
real
online.
reflection.
It's the same thing with DEI in
Look,
schools.
look.
Skyless, your mic
Okay,
is
guys,
picking
quiet
up
for a
soft,
second.
brother.
Hey, this is in real life. This is Delta Airlines. They put out a document to their employees, which included the style notes, okay, for when they're writing. This is for, I assume people doing advertisements and things like that, any sort of like journalism for Delta. They capitalize black and brown, but lowercase white. That just is weird to me. Like this, so.
I agree.
Earlier,
Listen,
you were
agree.
saying that this
I
is
agree.
more about like, that's not about race. It's just about the majority. This seems oddly like specific and directed.
Well, because if you look at societies, so if I, a white guy, were to go into China, right, I would be the minority. So how I would be treated would be affected by the majority population. This will apply. This exact thing that I just said here will apply to any society in which
China
there is
and
a
America
majority
are not the same
population.
thing.
Okay, so
Yes,
China's,
it doesn't matter, guys.
Chinese
Guys,
people are taught from birth to
dude,
hate Westerners.
it
They are taught
doesn't
from birth
matter.
to
That's
hate
not the point.
Westerners.
That's
Yes,
not the
it
point.
does when you're comparing the two.
Ridiculous. This is
Yes, it does
ridiculous.
when you're comparing the two.
This
Your
is
only
ridiculous.
argument is it doesn't matter because they are different. Like that's what a comparison is. You're comparing two different things.
Borg, we're talking about companies in two countries that would be using the same DEI platform.
Right, and what's your name? Not Lucifer.
I understand that.
Whatever you're saying that like.
Incarnation.
So
not
you're saying that if
Lucifer.
Hispanic, you're saying that once Hispanic people become the majority in America, then it'll be white people getting those jobs. But here's my thing: is that maybe things will change between that when that happens. Maybe things will evolve and change and get better. But let's say it happened right now. Right now, I think that everything would stay the same, and they'd say, "Oh yes, but historical inequalities." Historical inequalities. They'll say that for another 100 years and use it to discriminate against whites.
That's a non sequitur. That's a non sequitur, and you can't really use this in a debate. It's really a non sequitur.
It's
not a worthy
hypothetical,
line
but
of
they
argument.
do use that line of reasoning now. They used it with the AI thing. The New Mexico University said that they were excluding straight white men because of the historic inequalities in AI for the AI program. When AI has only been like a thing for how many years? So if they're using that now, and that's a perfect example of what I was just saying, they're proving me right. So prove me wrong. Show me an example where somehow that worked. Well, I mean, it wouldn't now because we're the majority, so you probably can't. But it kind of proves my point. But like I said, things might change between now and then. Maybe the woke will stop being racists.
I think we're getting off into the weeds. I think we need to back it up to like what's happening right now and not probabilities or future occurrences.
Well, that is happening
like
right now. That is something that's happening right now.
When you were using the example, of the airlines, do you know in that example how much it's affecting the industry, or if they're creating risk by hiring people of less merit for the job?
Yeah. So I'll have to find it here. But apparently, there's a lot of like boomer pilots that are getting too old to fly, and they're basically being saddled with these diversity hires that they're not passing their tests, they're failing, and yet they're still going on, and they're being paired up with these pilots, and these pilots are like, once all these white men quit, y'all are going to just be with these folks who all failed their tests, and yet we're allowed to go anyway for diversity. And
definitely try and drop that source.
Yeah.
Also, welcome to Ava or Vara, or what? I'm not going to say her whole name. So, what do you call yourself?
Thanks. I don't know. Ava look at Vara. It doesn't matter. That's just a random name for this. I got banned on my other account for gore and shocking content.
Well, thanks for not posting that in the server. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, that's not what I posted. That says something about Jews, and they don't like that. So.
Here we go.
Gotcha.
I'll call you Vara just for quick reference. But you want to weigh in at all on the topic?
I can play
of
the video for everybody if
DEI being a violation of civil rights or not. Do you have any thoughts on that either direction?
Yeah, I think that it is, and if we, really peel back what's going on and look under the covers, there's definitely some subversion going on, because look who look who invented airlines. Look who invented power and the internet. And look who didn't. You know, and look at the countries where blacks have kicked the white people out, or look at countries where blacks don't want white people in there, or other races. You know, and they're shitholes. And I mean, I like Mexico. We used to go there as kids, but you know, it's a third world country pretty much. And you know, look at India, and you've got these people getting these jobs and come into our country and trying to wash us out. And that's the goal, is to get rid of white people, because we have influence, and we usually stand up to people that want to come in and subvert our country. You know, look at how many times certain groups of people have been kicked out or asked to leave. You know, look at Scandinavian countries that have majority white population. Their crime rate is extremely low. And now you've got them flooding the countries with Middle Eastern immigrants, black immigrants, and the crime rate is soaring. I mean, this is by design. You know, it's subversion. And why? You know, I don't know. We stand up for ourselves. We fight wars. They want to take our guns. They want to take our influence. You know, how would you go in and take over a country? You would wash out the people that would stand up and say no. But back to the original subject, DEI is part of that subversion.
So, real quick, let me just show this real quick to the audience, and you guys, if you want to see it, if you join my screen share, you can see it. But this is the CEO of Delta, and this is one of the things that was raising concerns, because he seems more concerned. First of all, he's like a very outspoken drag queen, and it's like, that's like, why? It's just a weird thing to put forward. I don't know. It's weird to me, but it's such a focus on hiring. I'm fine with pilots of any color. I don't care. But like, just the idea that there are people of color that are getting the job just because of that is frightening.
The fact
I don't
that
like
it's
flying
not
anyway.
a skill issue, it's a race issue, is alarming. That's the problem. The volume's really low.
I'll revisit your
Oh,
point then,
hold
Var, that you made.
1 second. Yours are wrong, of course. Here we go.
You know, everybody talks about Nazis burning books in the 30s and 40s, but they don't tell you what books they burned.
Working into the Aviate Academy.
We have committed that 50% of the class of the classes will be women or people of color. Today, only 19% of our pilots at United Airlines are women or people of color. And by the way, from all the data I've seen, that's the highest of any airline in the country.
White males don't just dominate in the cockpits, also in the C-suite at United Airlines.
Well, look, at United, I'm proud of the diversity that we actually have in our C-suite. I think if you look around corporate America.
Correct me if I'm saying, though, so this is just based off your website, the people you list as executives, but out of 11 people, 3 are women. I believe 1 is a person of color.
That's correct. But, you know, in corporate America, I think, you know.
That's a low bar. How do you raise your own bar?
Well, a lot of this is, you know, focusing on it. We have
Why is
programs.
that a low bar? Like,
one of the
white
things
people
we
are
do is
undesirable?
for every job when we do an interview, we require women and people of color to be involved in the interview process, bringing people in early in their careers as well, and giving them those opportunities and creating a.
Yeah, whatever.
Individuals don't even get the opportunity to innovate. It seems that's my assumption.
So I just played that video real quick for the audience, and he basically was saying, right now only 19% of pilots are people of color or diverse or whatever, and that all the rest are white males. And they're like, oh, what are you gonna do to get that down lower? Like, what? Like, it's a situation where being white becomes a detriment to you. Like, whites become
Why are we in a
undesirable.
rush to do it? Why
Isn't that
should we have to be in a rush to
overrepresented?
do
I
it?
think blacks make up a smaller percent of the American population.
They do. They make up a small percent, but they also make up the largest percent of the crime.
All right,
I
let's
don't
not
wanna
get into
that.
that.
Let's not get into that. That's a whole other thing. Atlas, what do you think?
I'd like to bring up. I'd like to bring up, or Atlas if he wants to go, but I'd like to bring up a very good example of failing DEI. But Atlas, if you want to go first, please do.
I got an example too, but you go ahead.
No, go ahead. I've talked more than you have. I'd rather hear you, to be honest.
That's fine. I was going to bring up the Scully effect, if those are aware of what that is. But then this weirdo tried to go on about Nazis, and that drove me nuts. Who's seen X-Files? Anyone seen X-Files?
Yeah.
X-Files? Love it.
Yeah, you've seen X-Files, right?
Of course.
You ever heard of the
You
You ever heard of
muted
the Scully
yourself.
effect?
No, I haven't.
You have not.
I don't think so.
Why don't you Google it? I mean, you're Googling everything else. Why don't you Google
I'm
it?
about
Why don't you show
to.
the class Scully effect? Here you go. The Scully effect.
Sansol, welcome,
Got it.
brother.
It's gone.
So it's women who regularly watch X-Files are significantly more likely to have considered going into STEM career, majored in STEM field college, and worked in STEM profession.
How is this not a negative benefit to, or how is this not a benefit to society by highlighting a woman in a STEM field where it's not necessarily a combat role that she does, right? She's in the lab.
Well,
she's investigating.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm not against that at all. I think that's great, actually. And I would say,
well, no, the problem that we're having here, and this is my biggest issue, is that I really want to ask, how would you feel about a sign like a donut shop, right? That said out front, that said like blacks need not apply, or that said, or the Irish need not.
Obviously.
How would you feel with that? Well, why is that wrong?
wrong.
Because that's what you're saying. Because now we're selecting for race, right? But I'm only picking a historical example that people have already done, right? Like this. The problem isn't DEI. The problem is how is it applied, right? And when we originally talked about this, we talked about how it breaks up the predominant. It breaks things up from getting stagnant. Even when I joined this channel, right? You guys jokingly talked about how you guys needed more diverse combatants in here to keep things from going stale. Okay.
I wasn't joking.
How is the Scully effect an example of DEI?
And in fact, I would say that the Scully effect, actually, real quick, I just want to throw this in there. That
like
X-Files,
anti-DEI.
Right. I would say that like that actually proves there was a time before the woke supremacist movement where women were in stuff and were role models and like were.
No, but before she was in it, was not right.
It wasn't
if you go on
ham-fisted.
reading the article, it talks about the increase in both the FBI and other STEM fields, right? Specifically the FBI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see how that's DEI though. Like,
yeah, I don't
great.
either, but
I don't see how that's DEI.
I see where you're getting at, but yeah.
Yeah, so Dronetek, you said something here, right? You said something, and I want to point on it. It wasn't ham-fisted in, and I 100% agree with you, right? I 100% agree with you. The way DEI is applied is very ham-fisted, it's very down your throat, and it's very rewarding for things that shouldn't be rewarded. I agree with you. The only thing I will say on that, right, is on that standpoint, we as a society, however, I don't want to say responsibility, but it's in our best interest to recognize that there are talents in minority populations that likely, right, based on fairly accurate statistics, get less opportunities by the mere fact that they are a minority population. They will be biased towards the majority population.
That's not true.
Yes, it is
Could
true.
I give an example? Could I give an example real quick? Could I give one example?
I also want to
Asians are a minority population, and per capita they get accepted into colleges more. Whites get accepted less than Asians in colleges, yet they're a minority population.
Real quick, I want to welcome Sondasol and regular debater.
Average
debater.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just call me Tyler, dude. It's fine.
Yeah,
a lot of people hear
so
this.
is. Oh,
What's
yeah,
up,
go ahead.
Sondasol? Good to see you.
No, I just want to say hey.
Yeah, no, okay. So like I think a better example, this is something that I was just going over with my chat because I was looking into DEI because I've heard very vague things, both positive and negative about it, right? And that seems to be the overwhelming majority of the information out there on DEI is that it's very, very vague as to what it is and what it's seeking to accomplish and through what means.
I appreciate you going over the content or the content with your chat, buddy. It's awesome.
Yeah. So here's an example that I know of off the top of my head that why like DEI might be a good idea, right? Like making sure that there is some level of diversity in a workplace. I believe it was either Canon or Kodak. It was some camera company. I believe this happened in the early 2000s, right? And I think that there was even a business psychology theory put out about this. I can't remember the name of it. I apologize. But essentially, this is what happened. They had a camera that had facial recognition software so that it would focus on the face no matter how far or close it was to the camera, right? And right before it goes to market, they realize, holy shit, this camera doesn't recognize black people faces.
Nice.
Right? This cameras has been in development for, like 5 years. We've put all of this work into the algorithms that recognize the faces, but it doesn't recognize black people. Why the fuck did this happen? And
No
they
one on the team.
realized, yes, they realized that the team was testing the software on pictures of their family or using the cameras on their family, right? But they were almost all white or Asian workers at this office. So because they lacked that bit of diversity in their workplace, they actually had lost a fuckload of money because it was right before it was supposed to go to market. They lost yeah, go ahead.
It's an interesting example because it's a very physical example of diversity. Like, it was literally the color of his skin and nothing to do with his abilities or his cultural experiences and stuff like that.
Well,
You know what I mean? Like, I understand your point, but it's just
something
such an interesting point.
right, and I can agree with you that this goes against the part of DEI that I would like to see actually happen, which would be the merit-based things, and then after that, however the fuck things happen. I was just trying to look through or find some specific details about a DEI program, and it doesn't seem like there are any specific details about any of these things. You have to either
once you dig, you'll find it, but it's a
the
big
programs. The programs are almost always linked to, Ibrahim X. Kendi and that woman who wrote White Fragility and all those people. It's all critical race theory stuff.
Yeah, Robin
And I'd also like to add, right, that I'm at least for me where I live, right, there is a tax-based incentive to diversity hire. And for me, it could be a market-based incentive to diversity hire, much like Sonsol pointed out, right? There is a market value here for a company to be diverse. I don't like it, however, when the government comes in and says, "Hey, we'll give you a tax break if you have so many minorities on your staff," because that's where it starts to break down. Because now they're not hiring for they're hiring for profit, sure, but they're not hiring for market profit. They're hiring for tax breaks, and they'll hire anybody, and then it doesn't become a meritocracy anymore.
It's using money to push.
Can I jump in and I'm a little late to the party, so let me know if I'm discussing something you guys already went over. First off, Atlas, this is my first time seeing you with a camera. You look beautiful today.
Ooh.
I'd smack. Console, what's up? I haven't seen you since, I want to say we did debate 1 for the Republicans on Wick's panel. That's the last time I've seen you. What's going on? So,
man?
2 things. 1-to-1 comparing the white and black demographic is a huge issue that people often bring up. You cannot compare these 2 demographics. I made a big, long, hour-long video about when you're looking at the 2 demographics just based on race. You're looking at a very young median age of the black demographic is in the 20s, which is the most common age, I should say. I don't know the difference between median, mode, and whatever. So the most common age of a black male is in his mid-20s, which is right in the general age of committing crime, having higher car insurance, all sorts of different things come from having a younger demographic. So to say that there's less opportunities per capita when you just compare the 2 different racial demographics, obviously you're going to see white people making more money because they're more often 50 years old, which means they're more educated, have more work experience, things like that. So I would say you can get some good numbers from there. Just be careful when you assume when you compare the 2 demographics like that. There are a lot more smaller factors you're overlooking that could potentially lead to those disparities besides just a lack of diversity. Secondly,
quick, can you turn the sensitivity on your noise gate down, because the beginnings and endings of your words are all cutting out. It's a little hard to follow.
Oh, my bad. It's my thumb, actually. I'm pulling off too soon.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I would just say that there's a big amount of disparities between the black and white demographics. So just comparing them as a 1-to-1, it leaves a lot of room for other things that you're just looking over when you're assuming it's just a lack of diversity. Then also, on the diversity point, we see with affirmative action and getting people into colleges, when you start to get some of these other groups into colleges based off of skin color, you start to see okay, so let's say some black kid from the inner city scores and 1,200 on his SATs and need a 1,400 to get into Harvard, but they let him in based on diversity. The chances of that person flunking out is substantially higher. So we actually see this push for diversity in terms of education failing because you're putting people that are not at the level for a Harvard level education into Harvard or Cambridge or whatever these high esteemed Ivy League institutions are, and you're setting them up for failure by pushing them too hard too fast. Not saying the effort is in the wrong place. I do like the effort, and I'm going to probably disagree with Dronetek on the idea behind diversity, equity, inclusion, but I will say some of the results haven't been ideal.
Can I interject quick? Or go ahead, Atlas. Go ahead.
I just want to point out. I think the biggest negative to DEI programs is that they usually come in the form of, in my opinion, they come in the form of like HR departments and private. There's not really much, and there shouldn't be much training from the government to how to like enforce these things. And then the court, as we're like seeing now, is kind of parsing out how like in Harvard, some students are actually they are discriminating against other people based on the color, against white people, and people do go to court and they do win even if they are white, right? Like I think that because the language is loose around civil rights and how we apply because our population changes, right? We gotta anticipate for the future. I think the problem is when people start to like build training materials on how to discriminate, and they fail when doing that, right? When really most materials that you kind of see publicly available are more about awareness and helpfulness, and trying to make sure that you're actively not selecting for another person by their race, right? Like they're to remove bias, not gain bias. And the biggest problems happen is when the training fails, and that's not a huge problem, but
So can we all agree here that the ideology behind diversity in a workplace is that minds from different cultures are going to be able to think of something that you wouldn't because you haven't had that type of experience in your life?
That's part of it, but it also folds in with the equity part in that if everybody came from a fair starting field, you would already have that sort of diversity. And the fact that we have historical injustices against specific groups means you need to give some groups an extra leg up in order for them to meet. So the equity folds into so in order to have diversity, you need to have equity.
Right, but that logic is so flawed and can really like spiral in on itself pretty quickly, I think. And especially I always like to think if you take humans back to the starting point where we're all starting from the same spot, right? There's still like inequities between people for different reasons. And maybe they're just having to do environmental, or maybe they're personal. I don't know. There's always going to be some sort of difference between people, and I don't think. I mean, that's why we've chosen equality over a communist state of equity, at least up until this point.
I don't think communism, as a former communist, communism is not about equity. Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that probably isn't correct. Equity was it Marx? Is equity a Marxist?
I don't think so. No.
I've looked into this before, and it actually is kind of hard to nail down.
Let me be like more like honest. It could be like a later,
it's something
that came out of like a later Marxist, school.
Well, let me just say this:
like
Marxists and socialists and communists all seem to really like equity.
So I have a question for Sanford, then based on his
capitalists
background,
don't like equity. Like, what do you mean? That's such a weird statement.
Well, that's who is promoting equity. Who are the people promoting equity? It's all far leftist people.
Those who don't have it usually. Those who promote
That's
equity.
not true. It's mostly white, rich liberals. I live in a neighborhood and they all promote it.
That is not true. While we were
most most Mexican households, Filipino households, most black households, or not most black households, I apologize, but a lot of them are conservative and don't agree with this. Especially like Mexican and Filipino households, mostly focus.
I pointed out myself that Bernie doesn't support equity. He supports equality, which is kind of my point, that Bernie is a pretty far left guy, and even he doesn't support equity.
Okay,
over equality.
Really quick. It is not true that it's mostly white people. All right. Let me just find it right here.
Really?
What's not mostly white people?
I think that I'll agree with what he's saying, because
I'm just trying
a
to
lot
find
of
the exact
minorities
paragraph.
that are allowed into these Ivy League colleges under the DEI principles are brainwashed with leftist ideals, and they also promote that.
I don't understand how
totally
it can't be
hold on.
mostly white people, considering we make up most of the population. That would literally just make
Right,
sense.
that's true. Right, you're right.
I would
I'm
argue,
gonna
however,
really quick.
though, I would argue, however, the reason why there are so many foreign students in universities is not because of DEI, and is strictly because of capitalism. Because universities charge those foreign students a fortune, so it has nothing to do with diversity or anything. It has everything to do with money.
There's also going to be some amount of prestige for being seen as like an international school rather than like a local little hinky-dink college town. So like that'll also be a factor into it. Really quick, I'm just going to read a very quick paragraph of some percentages. More than half of workers, 54, say their company or organization pays about the right amount of attention to increasing DEI. Smaller shares say their company or organization pays too much attention, 14%, or too little attention, 15%, and 17% say they're not sure. Black workers are more likely than those in other racial and ethnic groups to say their employer pays too little attention to increasing DEI. They're also among the most likely to say focusing on DEI at work is a good thing. 78% of black workers say this, while white workers are the least likely to express this view, 47%.
That's why I didn't say per capita. That's why I said most.
Yeah, just the fact that there's primarily 5 times as many white workers as black workers. Just
This
based on
isn't a per
population stuff.
capita. I didn't say.
You said
one in the-
79% of black workers and 79% of whatever, or the other demographics. That's per
47.
capita. Could you send me the article, please?
20% of white workers make up more than 100% of black workers, just flat number. Just because.
And let me show you this article too.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about per capita of black or white people or percentage of them.
This is
or at least that's not what we were talking about earlier.
This is a nationally representative survey of 5,902 U.S. workers, including So this isn't per capita.
Yeah. Well, if you're saying like
percentage is per capita.
If you take your exact numbers and spread them out over the entire United States, 49% of white workers are just more white people in mass than black people that exist in the United States. Like I think it's like 25% of white workers are a bigger mass of people than all black people in the United States workers are now. So even if 100% of black workers were for DEI, at a flat rate, 21% of white workers is more than 100% of black workers.
If you want me to clarify,
yeah, maybe I misunderstood you, but it said that you said that mostly white people support this, and that black people and Hispanic people are more conservative, and they disagree with this. But this is saying that 78% of black workers say this, while white workers are the least likely to.
I took away the black part after I took away the black part.
He said Filipino.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Okay. If you want me to clarify, I meant mostly white people vote for Democrat, mostly white people vote for Republican, but in terms of the percentage of white people and black people, yes, it could be different.
So,
or among their own groups.
Real quick, and I have it up for the audience. In 2021, in total, U.S. Companies increased U.S. workforces by 323,000 people, and of those, 20,000 were white workers. The other 94% were people of color, which I hate that term because white people are not void of color, and it's weird how it's like basically everyone in humanity with white people like out on their own. It's like separate from everybody else. Anyway, that's just another weird thing about the language used with that. But what do you think about that? Is that a good thing? I mean,
can you repeat that? Sorry, I was reading a DM from.
It's this is from Bloomberg. It's a Bloomberg article. They said in 2021, in total, they increased U.S. workforces by 300. Companies increased U.S. workforces by 323,000 people in 2021, and of that, 20,000 were white workers. 302,570 were 94% were people of color.
I would want to look into that more because I heavily doubt that. I heavily doubt that, so I would want to see that article.
I have actually. I have seen people argue about the stats used here.
Yeah, but I'd also like to see, as part of that stat, right? If we're going to go look into the aggros of the stat, I'd also like to see what kind of jobs here they're using for those numbers. Because if we're talking about minimum wage jobs, then you've got a really clear idea. Right, so that's what I want to see.
I was going to make that same point Incarnation made as well. Incarnation's 100% correct. If you're talking about low skill labor, And white people being an older demographic, well, you're not going to work a low skilled labor job when you're 50 with an education. So
yeah, I'd just like to look more into that statistic.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very right to me.
yeah, I mean, it sounds 100% right to me. Younger demographics are going to take low skilled labor jobs much more often. So if it's all like service industry jobs that don't pay very good, and you got a lot of unemployed young Hispanic, Black, non-white people basically, because white people, if you look at census repopulation rates over the last like 50 years, white people are repopulating at a much lower rate than their population size by
Right.
almost half as much. So
Right. And
they're,
you
they're
add
really
illegal
no
immigration to that. Sorry.
Yeah, well, legal too.
Not my fault. I got 3 kids though.
I got 4. I'm doing my part. No, look, I just so we're clear
I've got
here,
5.
like I am not against
wow.
like every
Congrats.
group getting jobs and everything. All right, what I'm worried about is this push for equity actually turns into, like I said, it's a systemic racism against white people that people have in their heads is actually a good thing, and that's why I posed the question. So is DEI a violation of civil rights? And there are a lot of lawsuits going out against companies. RW did some research earlier, if he wants to tell you about it, basically finding that these corporations are now amending, because they're getting sued, now they're amending the language of these things, which is interesting because the way they're trying to get around civil rights, basically. And it's almost an acknowledgement that they know that they're going to have to do that in order to achieve this goal that they want to achieve.
Isn't that a good thing? Isn't that
I'm
a
sorry?
good thing? A corporation adapting to the changing climate, to the changing labor, isn't that a good thing? Like, isn't that what you want to see?
It depends on whether it's a good idea or a bad idea if they're adapting to
Is
it.
it bad? Is it bad
to your point, you're
to
saying, like,
violate our civil rights, Atlas?
Well, what you're saying is people are going to court, right, in the United
Right.
States, and they're winning
Right.
lawsuits, and the companies have to change the language of their hiring practices.
Right.
And so
Right.
I don't see a systemic problem because I see a system self-correcting, and I
see a problem because
but it's not correcting.
I see
at
a
all.
problem because
It's
they're
just getting
conforming to
around.
something that isn't right.
You literally just said that they're amending
They're
the
conforming
language
to something that's bad.
They're amending the language, correct. The question is, are they doing it because they ideologically believe something different now, or are they just changing the wording so that it's no longer illegal?
Well, so I want
say what
to
they're saying.
point. I want to speak on what Atlas is saying, right? Like, I mean, the laws we know today may be 100 years old, right? And they may have been adapted over the change of society. And it's always this tug and pull sort of thing with laws. As they get pushed, they're too hard, they get pulled back, and then they find a happy medium where they seem to stay for a long time. So what Atlas is saying is correct, and this is what we want out of our justice system and our legislation system, is that if there is too much of a push, the principles, or in this case, Constitution, is able to pull back on the severity of those laws and have them have companies or the population fall in line more with what the Constitution is. And you have to expect people will push the lines of what you can do and can't say, and that's why you have these structures that allow them to be pulled back and say, "Oh, this is too much." It's just, this takes time. This takes years. This takes like decades to be fully seen through to see. And in that time, we have conversations like this, and that allow these legislations to eventually find their right path towards what the majority of the population seem to want.
Yes and no, because there's the example of when Trump ended a certain practice of DEI in the federal government, and then when Biden got back in, he revoked that. So then it went right back. In that instance, it's no longer a back and forth court issue among society. It's just like, this is what we're doing in the federal government now.
Could I elaborate?
It is, though, because you're talking two changing presidents who are elected by people.
I want to elaborate on Atlas's point a little bit because I think he's onto something a little here. Essentially, the pendulum swings in different political directions, and it swung too far. Lawsuits were filed, the system's autocorrect. Think of it, for instance, Trump putting 6 Republicans on the Supreme Court. They overturned Roe with the Dobbs decision, and then it's left up to the states to do what they want. And some states passed some pretty moderate policy. Others went way too far. Lawsuits were filed, and now we're seeing the 50-state experiment where abortion policy that everybody can agree on is eventually going to be the end goal. We just have to get there through legislation, lawsuits, and etc. That's kind of what's going on with DEI right now. Is dumb leftists got their hands on somewhat of a good idea and they went way too fucking far with it and they got sued and they started using it for anti-white, anti-Western shit, which was what leftists do. And now that they've tainted it, it has a bad taste in its mouth when you think about it. But there really are some good core things that come out of DEI on its inception that I feel like if we really dove into the actual definitions, everyone would be like, yeah, you know what? I understand and agree with that. So.
Well,
That's a fair
my
assessment.
question is,
you were
like,
here
the way
earlier.
that
Earlier
I'm,
we kind of already said that. So.
yeah, what I want to know
Let's let
is,
us all go real quick, please.
yeah, what I want to know is, like, what it seems to me is like DEI is a broad concept of a type of a kind of schema that you can put into policy, and you can kind of choose what kind of policies you're going to enact from it, and you can decide how far those policies are going to go. So like the DEI itself isn't necessarily bad, but the way that some people are implementing, you know, some of these concepts into policy is what is so irritating to everyone, right?
I think DEI is bad by its very own definition because I don't think diversity is our strength. I think it's a big weakness.
I mean, there's some stuff to unpack right there. Like, do you think that it's a bad thing to have, you know, like white people and black people and Asian people all working together?
No, that's a very neutral thing.
Let's say you open up a business where it's grabbing things off a really high shelf and all you have to hire are a bunch of Chinese people. Would diversity be your strength to hire one black person?
It depends on
Listen,
how
Yao
tall they-
Ming exists, okay? Yao Ming exists. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
There are lots of tall Asian
Here's the thing: is that diversity.
I could
is
restate
good.
my point where
Yeah.
it can be positive, neutral, or bad, but most of the time I think it's neutral, especially when it comes to hiring different people. I think it's neutral in most fields. Besides,
think
like,
that's
you
a
know
fair
what, you brought up other
think
like
it's fair,
facial
too.
technology, stuff like that. Yeah.
But the
think
thing
we're
to
forcing-
focus on right there,
forcing it
just a very short
becomes
thing
bad.
here, right? Just a short thing here is like, you don't know what you don't know until it becomes a problem, right? That's what happened with that camera company, right? They didn't know that they were
True.
like missing out on that aspect of, you know, the development of their technology until it became a really, really big problem for them. And then it was basically too late. Now we have to, you know, scale back our operation, you know, redo some stuff, and then we can try and release it.
So,
like, you don't know what you don't know. So
And
maybe
I'd
it is a good
also like to
idea.
add too,
It depends, but sure, yeah, I can agree on that.
Good.
I want to say something real quick too. I also think that, you know, these programs unfortunately are not cognizant of what I like to call culture shock, right? And it's when you have an established culture and then there are a different sort of, there's different cultures that are being they're being forced upon, you know, the current established culture of a workplace, and it's not necessarily happening organically, right? So it's like you have 20 employees and then all of a sudden you add 5 or 6 more employees. Well, it's going to change the dynamic, irrespective of race. It's going to change the dynamic of the culture of the company, right? Now, add more variables to that: different cultures, different language, people who speak differently. There's accents. There's a ton of different variables, and you can force what I like to call a culture shock within, you know, even society with you know, immigration from, I would say, wrong places compared to your dominant population, and also in companies being forced to hire by diversity, which could create a rippling effect of culture shock throughout your company. So there's both good and bad. It's objectively good and it's objectively bad.
Okay,
But,
so
like,
can
okay,
we all
so-
agree?
That's
Can
for
I?
sure.
Can I? All right. So let me just get a quick round of hands. So is DEI, as it's currently being implemented, and the people that are driving it, is it a violation against civil rights? Yes or no?
It can be, yes.
It can be.
I agree.
But what needs,
In most cases, yes. In most cases, yes.
When leftists get their fucking hands on it, absolutely.
That's it. That's it.
So okay. So I think I can
But
even
here's the
agree.
question.
Hold on. I'm going to
I'd
quickly
say,
agree
yeah.
that I could agree with DEI on some level. I could agree with you on that because I'm for diversity. I am. I want all of us to work together. But I think I agree with you. The way it's being implemented is counterproductive. The entire thing.
You have to divorce it from critical race theory to then, I believe, say what you're saying, to agree with it.
Well,
Because you're
I don't
attaching.
understand why they use the word equity. I think that, like, equity is just forced diversity Equity has to involve quotas.
Okay,
Equality
but the
does not.
exact same stuff is being talked about in England, and they just replace the word equity with equality.
Well, we can't just do that. You don't want to just replace a word because those are two very different things.
Right, but like if we're like hinging the entire thing on equity, like some people would see this as equity, some people would see it as equality, right? Like,
but
I think it's like stupid to focus like so heavily on one word.
No, I don't think it's stupid at all. I don't think it's stupid at all because
Well, it's because we're assuming that we're using it in the correct manner. Unlike, what did you say, England, who is using equality in the complete wrong way? They're
Well, how do
they're
you know if
from
you don't even know what
England, so
policies?
they're kind of stupid.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to sit here and not dog on the British, okay? But yeah, like I guess like
I just want to say that the
Yeah,
definition
you
of
got it.
equity, real quick, is the quality of being fair and impartial, which is weird. That sounds like equality.
That's different than the one I
So,
posted.
But
Can
no,
I-
equality isn't necessarily fair or impartial. Anyway, the value of the shares issued by a company. Yeah, that's people. I think mostly think that they think, oh, I've heard of
Okay,
equity.
let me ask
in
you guys.
Economic
Let me ask you
terms.
guys this then. All right, like this is the first example before we even started looking into anything, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? I have extremely bad ADHD. I am a non-functional human being. If I'm not medicated, I can't focus on fucking anything. It really sucks. When I was in grade school, from
I have
like
ADHD.
yeah, it fucking sucks, doesn't it? When I was in grade school, there was a program. I don't know if this is all over the U.S. or if this is only a Texas thing, but there's a 504 program, right? And what that means is, okay, we recognize that you have this thing going on, right? You have ADHD, you have dyslexia, whatever the fuck. We're going to put you in this program. It means that you have a little bit extra time for your homework because we know it's really hard to focus. It brings you up to par with like other people that just like naturally have the ability to focus. Is this a bad?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Right. So I would
I'd
say
be
that
fine
this
with
is
getting
like,
better education for low-income neighborhoods where more Black people usually live. I think that'd be awesome too.
yeah.
There's
So
the
like
left field.
there's it seems like everybody agrees there are some aspects of DEI that are good. But I think the problem is that everyone seems to have a differing level of like how much they think
Understanding.
it's good or bad. Yeah.
Well, I think the workforce and the grade school are two very different things.
Well, let me
You
ask
also
you
have
this.
two
Let's
groups.
say that there's a
Quick-
person that
quickly, Santel.
has
So
yeah.
quickly, you have two groups here. You have everyone here that has their understanding of DEI, and you have all of the workplaces that have their flavor of how they're implementing DEI.
Sure.
Not happening organically.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to the workforce, just because I'm not looking at the camera, sorry, I don't know who said it. Let's say that there's a person that is a really good like programmer, but they have auditory, like their whatever like connects their ears to their brain. This is a thing that happens in lots of mental disorders, lots of
Autistics.
yeah, like you have like an auditory processing disorder, right? So it's hard for you to understand what people are saying unless you like take it really slow. But you're a really good programmer. Do you think that we ought to like have some, policies in a workforce that allow people with, issues like that to actually work, get all of their stuff done and thrive in the workforce? Right, whatever accommodations we need to give to them, right, so that they can.
I like that question, and there's a few things to unpack. First off, yeah, if they're performing just as well as other developers, sure, but I wouldn't hire them just based on the fact that they have problem with hearing, and we don't have enough people in our company who have problems with hearing, and so we need to make sure that our place is very diverse.
Sure, I can agree. I will never agree with anything that is a quota-based system. We have to have this many Asians. We have to have this many whites. We have to have this many blacks. I'll never agree with anything that's quota-based, right?
Okay, well, that's what's happening that's what's happening in many colleges. I can't say much about the workforce, but I do know that is happening. I can't say if it's happening in most workforces. but I do know it's happening in a lot of different companies.
I have a
think
quick
it's been
question.
exactly what's happening.
illegalized, but I might be wrong.
So
It
that's
technically is by the
ridiculous.
Civil
Amazon
Rights Act, but I
yourself.
mean,
Yeah.
here's the question.
technically
Well, here's the
is.
thing about
Never
here's
mind.
the
Sorry.
thing I want to
Can I
say
say
about
something?
Hold on,
quotas,
guys.
you know.
Everyone stop.
I
Hold
want
on.
to say
Stop.
Yeah,
about
someone's
quotas.
trying to ask me a question, and I'm the most
Sorry,
important
just
person
want
here.
to. Yeah, I just want to ask. I just want to say something. I think
Hey,
there's one thing that we can all agree on. Okay, the biggest example of failed DEI policies, right, within hiring, is our governments and our bureaucracies, right? You want to see the ultimate failure of that? Look to your government. Look to the people who are writing the legislation. Your bureaucracy has been forced this shit for the last fucking 20 years. They hire people based on quotas because they have to, right? Because they're the government, they're a public figure, they can't discriminate, and it has created a massive financial burden on our countries simply because we needed to accommodate a lot of people. To me, that is the biggest glaring example of failed DEI examples, where yes, I agree the government has to hire diversity. However, it being forced, especially in positions of high power, right?
Can you give me like an
were
example of that? Because I've never heard that happening
I'll
in our
give you an
government.
example. So,
Okay.
I
DEI
live
being
in
Are we
forced.
talking about like the DPS, or are we talking about?
Yeah, look, I'll give you a great example. I live in Canada. We have two official languages. We have two official languages in Canada, right? Just to say real quick. So there are people in high-level decision-making positions in the government who have been appointed to that position not because of merit, but simply because they speak French, and it creates
That's gay.
this
Does that count as a merit?
yes, and you have this in American bureaucracy as well. They'll hire somebody from a person of color who's not as well educated simply because they have to show face. They have to show that they're right. And that to me is where the failed policy, where it fails, and you see it's failure in your governments. That's
So
where you need
you're
to
saying only because they
okay,
speak French, but not
immediate
to translate
counterpoint.
Real quick.
Yeah,
Let
immediate
Saunders go, and then
counterpoint
I
to
want to
that.
jump in real quick.
Yeah, immediate counterpoint to that. Don't you think that like having someone that is a native or like extremely fluent speaker in a language that is not the predominant language of the entire country might be a really important thing, especially in
Merit.
certain like
That's a good point.
merit will never make. I could be
That is a
the
merit.
best.
That's what
Hold
I'm
on,
saying. It is
no,
a merit.
Oh, okay, so it is a
To be able
merit.
to
So
speak that language is a merit.
okay,
We're saying
yeah,
being
okay.
able to
So
speak
why are
another
we saying
language
it's
is a merit.
not? Why are we saying that they're being hired simply like?
Let's talk about hiring French, you know, because let's say that there is a percentage of people in Canada that speak French. The majority of them are from Quebec. And let's say that if they want to hire like a certain percentage of French speakers, they have to take into account the fact that there's going to be a big percentage of French speakers that don't want to work for that position. And when you discover that, oh no, we're not being able to meet that target, they'll have to lower their standards just to meet that target. So that's the problem I have with trying to put a quota to trying to hire someone because they want to achieve that something, when in fact you have a big percentage of that amount of French speakers that don't want to do that job. They want to have their own lifestyle that is not involving government. They want to be comedians. They want to work in the car industry.
Then why would they work for the
restaurant
fucking
industry.
government? Why would they apply at the government if they don't want to work for the government?
Because the government, as an example here, right, is a very good pay, and you get to move up the ladder quickly as a French person within bureaucracy, no matter where you are in the government.
I feel like we're getting to a completely different topic.
I'm just giving you an example because this is an example of forced DEI. This is in our charter in Canada that we have two official languages. So this is mandated as it would be in your constitution if you had an official language and you didn't have the First Amendment, right? So this is an example of DEI that's being pushed too far.
Real quick? Okay, so I just want. I really just want to like ask this question. Okay, let's say that I would say that speaking French probably is a merit, like people have been saying. Like, let's imagine like I'm the world's best social worker. I'm really good at making sure that people get all of the stuff that they need, right? But I only speak English, and there's a huge segment of the population that does not speak English. Now, those people are fucked because all of the people that are really, really good at helping out the French speakers, right? Because there might be some language like barrier there. Not just that we speak different languages, but even like Google Translate isn't going to give you a perfect translation every time. Different connotations with different words, et cetera, et cetera. Wouldn't it be like probably really important to make sure that people are getting
I think it'd be more important to hire both people so
I
that they can get free
actually have a
speakers.
response to that. I actually have a response to that.
Yeah,
Can I
sure.
respond to that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good.
No.
All right. Well, I just want to say that because you
I
mentioned
gotta use the restroom
about
anyway. I'll be right back.
the merit about hiring French speakers. Well, here's the thing. French speakers are a minority of the population. And you have to take into account the fact
In Canada?
there is going to be a big percentage of French speakers that don't want to go into those positions in government. And so when you have to...
Are French
hold on, can
really
you
the,
repeat that
the
for me real
minority
quick?
of the population in Canada?
Google it for us.
Yes.
Yeah, of course they are. It's only one province that
French
speaks
speakers,
French.
really?
French
Yes.
speakers in Canada? Yeah, it's going to be
There's
Quebec.
38 million people who live in Canada. There's probably 6 to 7 million French speakers.
Oh, okay.
7.2 million, 22.8% of Canadian.
There you go, Atlas.
So 1/5 of your country
22%.
speaks. Yeah. So 1/5 of your country speaks a different language, and you guys don't think that it's probably really, really, really important to make sure that people who need services from the government get those services from someone that is able to understand them?
Yeah, I don't think you should compare skills to skin color.
Wait, can I reply to this?
This is a
It very good point.
language.
It is. Wait. It is a very good
Exactly.
point. I would like to reply to this. Okay. So I do 100% agree with you. If the public sector has a public-facing job in which there is a government agent or worker that is expected to interact with the population, and in that population there are people who are French and want to be served in French, the government has an absolute responsibility to meet that demand for their population. The difference, however, comes in to decision-making positions. So managers of entire government
Understood.
branch who have been put into a position because they have some French employees and they need to make sure that they can communicate better to the 28% of the employees who are French rather than the 70% of the fucking employees who are working. Right, so you create this hierarchy problem in which French people who are underqualified, right? If speaking French is a qualification, however, being educated in the right manner and having the right experience is a better qualification, and that should be weighted with a much higher level of scrutiny, if you want to put it that way, than being able to speak French in a decision-making position.
Wait,
you consider that to
because
be
like
skill-based?
Think about literally any job ever, okay? Like I could be trying to apply for fucking McDonald's right now, right?
Do it.
I live in Houston, Texas. I could apply for McDonald's right now, and I would probably lose out to someone that has the exact same qualifications but also speaks Spanish. Or I could even be way more qualified and have experience as a fucking grill cook, right? But someone that speaks Spanish might seem a little bit more, like a better fit for whatever store I'm applying for, because there are going to be customers that come in that speak Spanish.
Racist.
I agree.
That's the demographic of that.
Can I just say something? Well, here's the thing. What you said, like hiring French speakers, just for the positions like in those government ranks, like. The fact is, if you're going to have to hire French speakers, okay, all right, I'll do that. Look, if you have to hire French speakers to be able to those government positions, they also have to speak English. And what if you hire someone that is a French speaker but has very bad English skills or have no English speaking skills at all? Like, what is the consequence of hiring French speakers if they don't hire those who speak English? I'm not saying that.
No, what it is? I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. There's two people who are working on. There's two people who are working together on an assignment. One of them is predominantly French and has a very broken English. The other one is English and speaks no French. And these two have a file in which there's obviously a bigger file, and of that file it's been delegated certain responsibilities, and they have to work together. So forced the diversity in this instance has created a backlog, a massive breakdown in communication. These people can't talk to each other, and the ripple effects of that is that now there's an HR grievance, and now they've got to look into this, and now it's got
How
to be
far is
why
that
the manager
extreme?
isn't.
Well, you're stating an extreme. How often is that extreme? Because I've worked in the
Fairly-
situation where you can figure it out because you speak enough of the other language. How often is the extreme
Well-
where it's like you can't even figure it?
Can
All
I
right,
can
so
I
in the-
ask
in
how
the
many
government- let
how
me
many
answer
French
quickly.
speakers
Let
in
him respond
Canada
real quick.
speak English?
Let an
Jacob, let him
incarnation
respond real
and
quick.
then go for it,
Yeah.
buddy.
So in this instance, where in the public sector, majority workforce of the bureaucracy has now shifted to a working at home situation, a government branch based in Ottawa, where I live, which is where the majority of the government head offices are, is hiring somebody out in Alberta, right? Because they're an easy hire and they want the position and they need somebody to fill the position. Right. However, there is a structure within the hiring in government in which managers get paid a bonus for hiring for diversity. So this manager says, great, I've got my English person. Now I'm going to hire somebody from Quebec who refuses to learn English and will also refuse to communicate in English because I need to fill a diversity quota. I need to fill a
Speaking in an
spot.
extreme though. That's like an assumption.
No. This is how the hierarchy works. Once you leave the union of the government, you are now in a manager position. You now get bonuses, right, based off of certain KPIs. One of those KPIs is diversity hiring.
I understand, but that doesn't mean that the person that speaks French has to have no idea what English is. Like that's an extreme assumption that they're hiring that on
But
purpose.
when you have a very limited amount of French speakers, such as in Canada, where it's only 28% of the population, you are going to fill that spot with somebody who barely speaks English.
I mean,
Just
that has
seems-
to happen.
seems far-fetched.
This is
That's the-
happening in America.
That's the government's role. The government needs to hire people to understand 1/5 of its citizens. It can't just ignore them because they speak a different language. They've been there for
No
hundreds
one
of years.
says we're going to ignore them. We're just we have to be very realistic about that because there's not going to be millions of Quebecans or Canadian French speakers that actually want to join the government. You're going to have normal paid French Quebec speakers who just want to work in a normal industry, and that
That's
limits.
cool, but they still need to do shit with the government. They still need to-
Incarnation, could I try and clarify your point?
Yeah.
Okay, so Incarnation is saying that it's wrong. Like, for example, if we took California, where almost 30% of the population in California are Spanish speaking, it would be wrong to have a government which decides pretty much how you live to hire based on the fact whether or not you are fluent in Spanish. That would be wrong.
Yes.
It's the government's
Wait,
job
no,
to
that's
understand-
totally fine.
That's not exactly what I'm saying. No, that's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there are certain positions in government in which language should be a highly weighted qualification because you are dealing with the public. There are, however, other positions in the government where language should be less weighted, right?
I think it's only good for-
qualifications and merit should be more highly weighted.
I just don't
right?
see the
But that's
problem.
not what happens. But that's not. Sorry, let me just finish. real
Wait,
quick.
let him finish. I'm interested to hear what he says. Let him finish.
But this is not what happens when you are forced diversity, right? And this does not happen when your upper management and the people who make the decisions at the end of the day are incentivized to not hire based on merit at the right position, but however, based on some sort of quota that they need to fill in order to get an extra check at the end of the year.
Understood. I think that's
there you go.
Does anyone not understand that concept?
I just don't see the problem. It's the government's responsibility to hire enough Spanish speakers to take all the calls needed from their Spanish speaking.
Well, he's talking. He's saying some specific jobs in government are good, but others don't need it at all.
I just want to. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Can I
Let's
just
give
put this
Jacob a
in?
chance to talk.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay.
What are the chances?
He's lagging out.
Right.
He is lagging out.
Well,
yeah. So
here's what I say.
He looks like he's. Are you bowling? Are you bowling?
Okay. Here's what I think. Here's what I think.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Oh, sorry. It's someone. Well, here's what I think. If they want to get Spanish speakers, they can always teach people how to speak Spanish.
They're in a
There's
longboard
nothing
shop.
wrong with learning another language. They can always say, "Hey, Let's
You're gonna
actually
have to commit, though. You're gonna have to
teach
commit
people
to
learn how
like
to speak
3 or 4
Spanish.
years.
That could work.
You're gonna have to commit to 3 or 4 years and wait 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or
exactly.
yeah, or you just
Yeah,
hire
so-
somebody to speak Spanish.
Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
always. Yeah, well, yeah, but
Listen, I think what my point
yeah,
is,
but, but teaching people how to speak Spanish.
If someone
is one of
has
them.
a better, if someone is a better fit for the job and they don't speak Spanish, and someone who is a less better fit or a worse fit for the job, I should say, and does speak Spanish, you probably shouldn't pick the latter.
Get on camera.
Look, I'm gonna put it.
I
I'm
want
gonna
everybody
put it.
on
I'm gonna
camera.
put it.
Come on.
My camera
Okay,
doesn't work right now. I broke
You're on the
it.
phone?
gonna put it.
You're on the phone? Oh, you're
Yeah,
such a liar.
I broke
You're
my
such a
phone
liar.
camera.
Sure you did.
So,
Okay.
so look,
He
I'm,
turned it
I'm,
on in the
I'm gonna
chat.
put it this way. If you're a company that deals in sales or has to solicit other companies to get contracts or whatever, right? And you're trying to get a contract in Japan, it would be it would be kind of stupid from a company standpoint to send a white person there. And in that case, you would definitely hire based off the qualification needed to speak fluent Japanese and be able to interpret what is being said properly, right? So that's an economic advantage to a diversity hire. Right, but hiring a manager, right, which a manager in the government, we'll put it this way, who let's say has to manage 25 employees and whatever bureaucratic bullshit that they have to deal with, right? Rather than hiring the best data entry people who speak English, like the majority of the employees do, they will fill a position only based off of the fact that they speak French. The mere fact that there is a lack of qualified French people who are applying for those jobs means that they will lower their standard for the French employee, and they will then hire somebody who is not qualified to do the job. So that's
Totally agree.
a breakdown
If I
of
may,
course.
I forgot Forg is a minor. You can get off camera.
If I may, the problem is you're saying that they are not qualified when the qualification is speaking French, right? Like you're admitting that they're qualified at the same time they're not qualified. Like the qualification is French speaking, right? Like that's the qualification.
If the qualification is French speaking.
What we're saying over here, that the government job, because the government job, there's certain mandates they have to fill out because the government has to apply to both French speaking people and English speaking people, right? So they need somebody to, represent that population. And the qualification is, as we all agree, which is a merit, which is French speaking.
Yes.
Yeah, but what if they don't have that other experiences like other skills?
I'll share a personal experience. I worked in IT for a company. I won't give the name. I was the sole Spanish-speaking representative for their Puerto Rico line, right?
Bueno.
And sounds cool, right? Oh, I'm a diversity hire. It's a guaranteed job. It was really easy. I could never promote, right? Because I
Southern Bell tech support.
Guy. Yeah, just one tech. The one tech support guy, right? Because they can speak Spanish, and no one else can speak, right? So there are pros and there are cons, right? And I'm just saying, we're not really describing a problem. We're just describing life. I'm just trying to see what their problem is.
I don't see anywhere where there's a backlog in Canadian government because of diversity. I think we're just kind of talking hypotheticals here.
Actually,
can I just
hey
guys,
that's true.
But I do like you.
My is actually a high level government employee, and this is something that is being talked at high levels of government, where there is an extreme breakdown in qualifications based off of language, and it is hampering their ability to actually be able to fucking work. And this is something that is being talked about.
We're getting bogged down on work quotas. I don't think anybody here is arguing in defense of quotas based on rank. So,
hey, can I just throw out? Earlier, we were talking about that quote, that stat that from Bloomberg. Mark Cuban just tweeted out today. I got it up on the screen. You can see it if you look in the share screen. He said he tweeted out today. With that in mind, I don't know what the previous post was. 94% of new jobs in the S&P 100 going to people of color. Sounds about what we ought to expect. It's not evidence of employers going to especially great lengths to hire minorities or discriminate against whites or doing anything other than fishing where the fish are. I don't know what that means. I just started. If the percentage were much lower than 90%, that would be cause for concern. Like, what?
Well, the
country is like 30% white.
Yeah, but again, if the jobs are meant for young people and you see a high amount of white people getting those jobs, that would mean older white people are getting jobs that are meant for young people, and that would be a cause for concern. Whereas, like, if you have a bunch of low-skill labor jobs, you put them out.
That is prominent right now.
Yeah, you're going to get young people. Young people are more often going to not be white just based on repopulation rate. And so you're going to get higher
Immigration
amounts
rates,
of.
perhaps.
Yeah, that as well. Legal and illegal. Legal mostly. Illegal, 1.5 million people over 3 years is a lot, but it's like a third of what we take in legally.
I'm not trying to get into the weeds. I'm just saying that is a part of that situation.
It is.
Can I show this real quick? Just because it's relates to what we're talking about here, the Civil Rights Act. The rabbit hole on Twitter said, "This sounds like a violation of the Civil Rights Act," and he highlighted this part. It's you don't actually read anything, do you? You should read the rest. It's a for-profit web school. If they want primarily purple eaters from Mars. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember this. So yeah, he's saying if it's a private business, they should be able to hire whoever they want. If it's all white people, that's fine.
I know I keep harping on this point over and over again for you, but a lot of these people, they identify as non-white or Hispanics, and within 3 generations, over half of Hispanics identify as white. They acclimate into the society, and they start self-identifying as white people. So these non-white are sometimes skewed numbers.
Yeah, the category of non-white is growing. Yeah.
But here's the thing about this United going to do this quota system for pilots. Don't they understand that there is going to be a big percentage of non-whites that don't want to become pilots? And now,
Why?
and if they want to try and that smaller percentage, because
finance.
Because if you're trying,
finance.
Someone just parked right next to you, bro. They're gonna be like, "What is this guy doing?"
You don't ask
I'm
questions.
confused. Why do we think that non-white people don't want to be
finance?
Why
He's
they're not
lagging out
signing up
again.
for pilots?
Jacob, you keep lagging out real bad, dude.
Dude, can I just throw out here, Sondasol? I just realized.
Yeah.
In the background, you have a CRT. Is that Chrono Trigger in the background?
Goddamn right it is.
That's awesome. I just realized that. I'm like, I saw you had something back there, and I'm like, what the hell is that?
Bro, I've
so you
been
know,
collecting
dude,
old
you're
Nintendo
lagging out,
systems
that's why
and
we're
shit
talking
for a
over you.
long time.
That's awesome, man. I love it. You should see my unfinished
Can
part
I-
of the
can I-
basement here. It's filled with that shit.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, I
Welcome
gotta
to
run,
take a picture
guys. It's
sometime.
really been a pleasure. I'll catch you guys later.
Thanks for chilling, Var. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank y'all
See you
for
later,
having me.
dude. Thanks for coming.
Have
a good one.
Later, man. Do you guys want to change topic? I feel like we've kind of come to a consensus on this. I don't know.
I don't think
Yeah, I
we've come
think-
to an agreement at all.
I
think
want to
that-
throw out a defense of equity real quick. You guys argued about it for a bit.
Well, I don't defend, like, I defend the idea of, like, I like the idea of people getting together, but if you have to racially discriminate to do it, it's not the right way.
Yeah, well, like,
And
equity
you guys
in
seem to be
terms-
saying, like, somehow there's some right way of doing that. I don't think there is.
So equity, I feel like it's just a different definition or a different way to achieve equality. And a version of equity that we've had in the United States for 50 years that people don't think of it as equity is the Pell Grant, where if you're poor, you can't afford to go to college, the government will give you money to go to college, not based on race or anything. And they use the Pell Grant in order to help just specifically poor people. They'll even pay some of your bills and give you some money back for
Well,
time
that's
you
not
lost.
race specific. So
That's equity, though. That would be why equity could be good.
Forced equity.
Not race specific. I'm talking racial quotas. Nobody in here is defending them. That's something that stupid leftists do when they get their hands on it. They start pushing their anti-Western, anti-white, fucking stupid agenda. So
And
I don't think.
when they add tax cuts to it as well, it just adds an extra layer to it.
Yeah, I don't think you have
Yeah,
any
that's
rabid
consensus.
leftists in here. You just got moderates.
Can
I have
okay, this is here's a quick question.
Oh, we got Atlas.
Fuck anymore.
We have Atlas.
Yeah, here's a question
you
that
got
I'd
me
like
on
to ask.
rabid.
Do we think that, like, because we keep on talking about, like, rabid leftists, and when y'all say leftists, I'm just assuming that you guys mean, like, anyone left leading as opposed to, like, what
No, we mean
people,
leftists who are rabid.
No.
We mean
Yes, they
leftists
do.
who are
They
rabid.
absolutely.
Well, no,
Anytime
you can be a left winger.
Don't rebel.
You can also be a rabid left winger.
You can be leftist and fine.
Yeah, for sure. I think
Yeah,
Atlas
okay.
is a rabid left winger.
You know what I'm talking
Yeah?
about, Sansa.
well, no,
He's
I
a rabid
actually,
left.
Hold on, I have
so
met some
rabid.
rabid lefties. I fight with them really, really hard. Okay, because I used to be like a left-wing fucking socialist person. All right, so I do know. But like when people talk about leftists, they either mean like a socialist, like a tanky, someone that is like a
Some
Marxist
type reviewer.
Leninist.
Right, I got it. Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yes,
progressive usually,
or
I say.
or
I
they
mean,
could be talking about someone like Destiny, who is very, very much not a socialist.
It can
No,
include
he's
both
not.
of those.
I don't think he
It
is.
can include both of those.
Now, the leftists will
Destiny's
usually talk about
an
those.
interesting guy. I got into it with him again today, by the way.
Did you really? I'll have to watch
He's
that.
interesting.
During his research stream, what he was doing in the text. We didn't.
I don't respect Destiny all that much. I don't know if that's a hot take,
I
but
made a video of it, but yeah.
Destiny is far beyond what he should be.
Let's try not to get
I
off
would like
the
to get.
weeds
I
on
would
that,
like to
guys.
get
Smart
Tyler.
guy. Destiny's a
I would like
smart
to get
guy.
Tyler's
I
last
respect
point.
him.
I gotta go soon.
Oh no, he's very intelligent.
Okay, yeah, not to make the topic about Destiny, but like the real question that I wanted to ask is like we keep on talking about like rabid leftists doing all this stuff, and I guess like the question that I have is like there seems to be so much like thought that there's intentional malice, right? Like they are doing something because they think that it's evil, right? And they know that it's evil, and they know that it's racist against white people, and they just hate white people. Like as someone that was a leftist and was a huge part of those circles for a long time, I feel like that's really not what people are meaning when they say these
both
things.
camps exist, though. Both camps.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that.
I think
As
both
I moved away
exist,
from
yes.
socialist circles, right? As I moved away from those circles, I won't
You're saying
necessarily
that they
disagree.
don't exist, but it also sounds like you're saying that's not really how it is.
Well, I don't think it's the. I don't
Leftist
think it's the
ideology
predominant.
seems to be centered around the main enemy of white, heterosexual white men, and white people at large, because they're like adjacent to that or whatever, right?
Everybody thinks they're on the right side of history. They think that they're doing right. You're absolutely correct. They think that like, this hardcore eye for an eye racism against white people is actually
I don't think
doing
it's
something good.
Yeah, I don't think it's an eye for an eye like on racism. There are some people that I do think are like that. Like
It's an
my
eye for
mind
my
was changed.
great-grandfather's eye.
Yeah, a little bit. My mind was changed a little bit on this while researching some of the stuff around what do you call it? Critical race theory. But it not to like a really great extent. So like I think that most people mean well, right? But looking at the Discord earlier before I started looking at stuff, people were talking about like this is their plan, it's all part of the agenda. Do we think that it's like a deep conspiracy, or do we like
So you're taking an example of an extreme person in this server talking about extreme people on the other side of the fence. So yes, that person that was making those quotes is a very strong opinion person that is extremely on
Okay,
the right.
I was just taking a temperature check to see like how I'm not trying to like call anyone out specifically.
he's
I'm just
not
like
here.
trying to get a temperature
said
check
that?
of the room on how
Thank
how
God.
deep into the like hatred for the other side we are. So I can
No, I'm
see where the conversation is going to
completely
go.
liberal.
I think
I'm
there's
like
a lot
on
of
the left,
people
just
who.
liberal.
I think there's a lot of people. So I'm 43 years old. You know, when I was in high school, I was pretty what would be considered woke now, and I literally was very suspicious of other white people. Felt like there was something wrong with white people in general. My group of friends was all like black, Asian. You know, like I was the only white guy in my group, and I went to college and I started questioning. I'm like, you know, and there was a lot of things that happened basically, and yeah, I think there's a lot of people going through that sort of thing. Like white people, I don't know, like I don't even know what my point is.
Yeah, I don't know what your point is either. We agree.
I guess like what I would imagine the point that you're getting at is like people will believe this and then they will kind of like grow out of it, right?
Right.
Or is that
exactly.
not what we're saying?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually used to be a person on the left myself. Now I've just shifted over to libertarianism myself.
Yeah, because you see that a lot in the younger people. There's a lot of videos at a lot of the HBCU colleges and stuff. I don't know if you've seen these. There's a few of them. And the students there, man, it's like hopefully like this isn't like something that they grow up and like this continues. Like I do hope that is something that's just young, you know.
Yeah, for the most part, I think that it is. Go
I just feel like the reason why they do that is because they suffer from a lack of consequences. So they just don't understand what consequences mean for them, you know?
Life experiences.
What do you mean they don't understand what consequences mean?
Well, I
Well,
think
they
what he's
don't
saying is that
understand
they haven't had
why-
enough life experience to justify their beliefs. That's
Is
kind
that
of what
an
I'm
Australian Taco Bell behind you?
Yes, that's an Australian Taco Bell.
That's awesome, man.
They're rare.
How cool.
Why are there Australians all over the place all of a sudden? Fuck.
I have a quick question for Sansal to go back to earlier, and this is a philosophical question based on what you were talking about. There was a coder that was, say, autistic, and he had trouble communicating.
Sure.
And we were talking about hiring that person, and I said, here's a different scenario. You have that autistic person that's hard to communicate with, and he's one of the best 2 coders in the world. The other best coder is also there to be hired, and they can talk and communicate just fine, but they can only yell to communicate. So here you have 2 individuals that are in front of you, a person that has trouble communicating and a person that communicates perfectly fine and screams all the time to talk. Which of those 2 seems to be the right choice for the job?
Listen, I'm getting the auditory problem person every single fucking time, dude. Every single fucking time. Assuming equal ability.
Equal ability.
Yeah, I'm not having someone screaming in my fucking workplace all fucking day long. And I'm not providing ibuprofen to all my workers. They can bring their own.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Right?
I understand. I just feel bad if we end up in court for decisions like that, you know?
Oh,
because
yeah, no, again, like, because I would, yeah, that's what I've been saying. Like, I would never agree with, like, just a quota system or anything like that. Like, that seems really bad, and it seems like there could be a lot of really bad things that come out of that, so.
I
To be
digress.
honest, when you mentioned the autistic comparison, I'm autistic myself. Like, to be honest, sometimes I don't even know how loud I speak because maybe it's because of the bass of my voice or some shit, you know. But to be honest, I work at a Domino's delivery driver myself. I can drive a car, you know, to deliver pizzas. So to be honest, not every person with autism is the same. They express themselves differently. They show their autism symptoms differently. So, and they don't think the same like any other autistic persons. The one thing that mainly disgusts me about it is how they think they want to, you know, do diversity, but they don't. They need to know that diversity must also not sacrifice merit and skill and qualifications to be able to make it successful. So I just kind of feel like if you're going to put in diversity, you're going to still give people with autism to prove themselves that they can do well. Otherwise, they'll be just like a hire just based on their disability.
Sure, I think that the real aim is less to just like have more autistic people or more black people or, you know, whatever. I think that the aim, like the stated goal that people have when they're talking about this is like, hey, it seems like in society these people don't get a fair shake, right? I think that like if we're talking about autistic people, especially in the workforce, probably they don't get as much of a fair shake as someone who is not autistic. And like the stated, you know, goal is like, hey, we should do something to make it to where, you know, whether it's like some sort of accommodation for them in the workplace or something like that, we should allow these people to actually, you know, function in a workplace, right? And we should give them the chance and all of that. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I'm also autistic myself, and I know there, like they said, there is like levels of autistics. Like for me, I am a very antisocial autistic. I prefer jobs where I can do my job without like a whole bunch of interaction. And I know there's autistics that can manage with lots of people and do lots of things. And
is everybody here autistic?
Hey, listen, I'm a gamer, okay?
I am the only normal person here.
I never thought I was, but I'm starting to wonder.
I am the only normal person in this room.
Nice to
you
know,
know,
Atlas.
if we're all autistic, we should actually change this Discord server to the autistic channel.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Population hasn't taken
If
over
we're
just
all
yet,
autistic,
Dark.
I'll find out.
No,
it could
I'm
be.
fucking normal and
I
healthy.
agree with them. There
Thank
should
you.
be some
Your dogs are
accommodations
cool
for
as shit,
people
dude.
that
I
are
love
like
your
that.
dogs.
It's
so
just
much.
important for those who
I want them to
are
be my dogs.
antisocial autistic. To
Go
work
ahead, Sebastian.
with people who are within the same category, but also ones who are very, you know, outward, you know, extroverts can work with people that they know they can do. Like myself, I've hoped and I pray that I find jobs where I can work with people that are within I guess you could say a mild mannered personality, because most majority of the time if I'm working with somebody, I want to be able to do my job, but also know that they're not gonna like jump on my skin.
Right. I mean, you will be able to find that place. Hopefully, that's a decision you make, and then you just have to hope that you come across people that are good people. Doesn't matter if people are autistic or not. They could want to work. I mean, inverted or extroverted, introverted, extroverted. Doesn't matter for autism. You just got to find people that you enjoy being around, and they will work with you because they're good people. That's my life experience.
Yeah, and I mean, what is the job I just recently got to is actually working to my strengths. The people that I interviewed with were very down to earth and people I could easily talk to.
Hey, what do you guys think about free Gaza? I say I don't really mind if Gaza, if Israel was there instead.
Just give Gaza to give
Bro, we're about to trigger
What do you
the
guys
fuck
think
out of
about
my
what's
chat.
going on there?
Instead of
You
free
guys want me to
Gaza,
be
we should
completely
say
honest? You guys
we
want
should
me to
say
be completely honest about what I think there?
What's going on in Gaza?
To a degree.
Okay, well, here's what I think. I think that Israel has every right to do what they're doing, and I hope they wipe out Hamas from the face of the earth, and that whole area becomes a part of Israel and grows and prospers, and the Palestinian people can actually live life and stop being under a repressive Arab Nazi regime.
instead of free Gaza, you should say expensive Gaza, and then none of the Jews will want
Well,
it
Gaza's
anymore.
gone, right? I mean, at this point, almost.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. So I have a pointed question.
How much
towards that.
explosions?
I have a pointed question. Lately, there's been a lot of information in the news about starvation happening in Gaza, and I'm curious for the people here to reflect on: is Israel using starvation as a tactic for war?
Probably.
Or is it something else where the food is not
I
getting
don't
to where
know
it's
for
going
sure,
or
but I
what's
would guess
happening?
yes. They're using siege tactics, and it's a war. Yeah, probably.
No,
And
I would say this much.
I hate that people are suffering
It's
there.
not
I
right,
do.
but it's all a part of war.
Right.
I
I
mean,
hate that
with
people are
war
suffering.
comes
I don't blame
destruction,
the people.
chaos.
Well, not totally. I mean, look, they elected the government. Like, did we really give a shit about the people of Germany when they elected Nazis and they got what came to them? Like, I kind of just feel like that's what happened there.
Okay, so when Gaza was when Israel withdrew from Gaza, they took all the Israelis that were settled in Gaza and ripped them from their homes and forced them into Israel. When they did that, one of the things that they gave up was a giant hydroponic farm. They set it up nice. They gave it to the Palestinians. Hamas went in and destroyed it, took all the pipes out and used them for weapons. We've been giving them humanitarian aid in the tune of billions of dollars a year to feed their people. Hamas is taking it. They're fucking storing the gas and tunnels. They're
So
taking
you're
the
saying
goods
it's
to the
not a
tunnel.
tactic of war. That starvation
not
is
a
happening
tactic of
because of what's happening in Palestine itself.
Well,
Israel was giving them water, power, and food, giving them for free.
Right.
When they got
exactly.
attacked by them, they cut that shit off.
Good point.
They're allowed to say, I'm not going to supply the people fucking attacking us with free power, food, and water.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Like, this entire conflict, and this is something I noticed way back in high school. Like, the same iteration happened over and over and over and over. And it becomes clear over time that there's people that are, like, literally keeping this conflict going for some reason. They want to keep it stirred up. Israel seems to be done with that, and I'm happy. Like, they need to end it because it needs to stop. Yeah, Egypt, all these Arab countries and other forces have been using the Palestinian people for years as sort of cannon fodder against Israel, and that's who needs
That's
to
why
be
they build
blamed,
their
not
tunnels
Israel.
underneath hospitals in heavy ventilated, heavily populated areas.
Egypt
just spent,
Egypt just had a military coup. They don't want any more of these people in because they just spent the last, whatever X amount of years forcing the Muslim Brotherhood into these mountains. I don't know what they're called. And if they bring in another million people from Gaza, that Hamas is a tie of the Muslim Brotherhood in a different country. So, if they bring that in, that just strengthens the opposition to the government. They don't want them.
Exactly. Nobody does. Jordan doesn't want them. Jordan is Palestinians. Jordan doesn't want them. What does that tell you?
Yeah, Jacob, you're still lagging, man, real bad.
At least give him a chance, though.
Israel Can y'all hear me?
Okay. All right, who wants to go first next?
Oh my God.
You're lagging really bad, bro.
Can y'all hear me?
Let's give Texan the chance, and then let's give Jacob the chance again.
Texan, get on cam, bro. I know you got cam, bro.
I don't have a camera. But anyway, no, Israel just sent several truckloads of food, fuel, and medical supply today to Gaza, and the Gazans that are there are actually Egyptians, and nobody from Egypt is sending any aid. Just so y'all know.
Right.
Okay. So do you think that stuff will make it to its user?
No, it never does.
Okay. No, and
never
it's
does.
crazy to
No,
me
Hamas
that this shit's gone
takes
on as
over
long
the
as it
trucks and
has.
uses them to their own advantage.
So, like, is there nobody to defend? Like, we have no pro Gaza any of that here.
Okay,
it's so funny how
I feel this is okay. This is how I'm gonna do this. I am broadly in support of Israel in this, but I feel like everybody's a little bit shitty in this conflict. Okay, over the course of history.
War is shitty.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's hear what you have to say.
We can say like war is shitty, but like we can do war better, or we can do it worse. All right, where there's a lot of people that are dying for no reason, or whatever.
Very little.
Okay, here's the real thing that's going on here. All right, there is a huge conflict that's been going on for like a century at this point, about 80 years, and the Palestinians really were dealt a fucking shit hand in this conflict. They were absolutely fucked. They had a whole bunch of people come in, basically take over land that they were living on for a long time. Did they own that land? No, not technically. The Ottomans owned it. We could be a little bit more understand. The Ottomans literally owned Palestine before the end of World War One.
And then the British took it over.
And then the British took it over. And then they split all of these different regions up, as the Ottomans mostly had. All right. And Britain had a problem. And their problem was they made promises to everybody. And they can't keep promises to everybody when those promises conflict. That's what led to like the majority of this conflict. The Palestinians kind of got fucked when it came to the first partition plan. They were the majority of the population, but they got like...
When was that?
1948.
Okay.
Or no. Wait.
Hold on. Let's stop.
I want to make sure that I have the date right, because there's
I think you're
first
close.
partition plan, and I think it's either
1948
or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
All right. Well,
And that's why I stopped you. Hold on. Like, I just want to point out real quick little detail that I think is important given the narratives that are current today, right? What's significant about the Palestinians in that area?
In which area?
In the era. I'm sorry, the era.
Oh, in that era?
Yeah.
There's several significant things. Which thing are you talking about?
Well, the main thing is that who are they allied with during that time?
He wants to call them Nazis.
No. They were allied with the Ottomans.
No, they're
wait,
allied.
Hold on. No. The 48.
They're allied with Hitler. They're allied with
Hitler. Are they allied with Hitler?
So are the Japs.
Okay.
That's true.
Can I put my...
Yeah, but Japanese are awesome now, so...
Okay, but
Palestinians are still basically Nazis.
Whatever the case, they're like alignment.
The
in World War
Palestinians
II.
basically allied with the Nazis during that time and have never stopped being Nazis. That's my argument.
Okay, hold on.
So
I don't think that's enough of a fair comparison. I think that can we agree that, like, let's say that you were living in an area.
I look at the TV. Okay,
let me just ask this question. I know, and the TV gives us a lot of information.
Their TV is Nazi TV, basically.
Yes, well, it's like Hamas version of Nazi shit. I understand.
It's Arab Nazi.
Listen,
That's what I say.
I have been super way more pro Israel than pro Palestine.
I'm loving your.
I'm being as
good. Let's get to it.
I like it.
Being as even-handed as possible.
I like it.
My 2 cents.
So
on the
I'm trying to get to you, Jacob. I want them to finish their point first.
Hold on,
and then you go next.
We're listening.
Okay, so they got a super shit deal dealt to them, and for the first couple of wars, they probably had the moral right. But at this point, they probably don't. It's been 80 years. Israel's more powerful than you. You're not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything out of fighting forever. Like, this is stupid at this point. But I think that it's important for us to recognize what the situation on the ground is, I think that we should all feel at least some empathy for the people of Gaza, because holy fuck, those people are getting bombed into oblivion.
I do.
I said that
earlier.
Is it?
They
Yeah.
volunteer to be meat shields.
I feel bad.
So
most of them are not
horrible, awful nightmare.
They're not necessarily volunteered. They're voluntold. All right.
Exactly.
A lot of the time they're voluntold, and
All right.
that's really fucked up. Yeah.
I got your point. I'll come back to it with a question, but I do want to give Jacob a chance to talk. So Jacob,
Yeah,
please
yeah.
take your chance now to talk.
Okay. All right. So let's start from all this beginning. Let's give it a quick history thing. We all know that before British Mandate, there came the Ottoman Empire. And then after the Ottoman Empire, there was the British Mandate of the Palestinian region. And after World War II, 1948, that's when it came to State of Israel. And the reason why it all started is because it all split into two. And this has been happening every decade. Palestine, Israel, Israel. Here's the thing. I think it would be better off if the whole state of Israel becomes a one state, and that the
That's
region
never going to happen.
and the country. And I know. Let me get to my point. The state of Israel, I believe, should become like the state of Israel and Palestine, a whole region solution in which everyone there participates in Israeli parliament, the Palestinians and Israelis. Okay,
that might happen through war. It would never happen politically, but now it might. Yeah.
Hold on. That would the Israelis would never be okay with that, because if they did a one state solution, the Israelis would now be the demographic minority, and they would lose their ability to the Palestinians would outnumber them like 3-1 or some shit like that.
There's no
so
chance
they
of the
wouldn't.
two-state either.
Why would they pull in people that want them to die too?
So that goes back to the
Facts.
question that I had for Sansol then. And but Atlas, you said you had to leave soon. Is there anything you want to say or anything? Or are you still chilling? What's going on?
I'll answer. I want to hear your question, and I'll go.
Man.
All right. So what is
I
the
thought
better
you'd be
way
much
of
more
war?
lively, bro?
What is the better way of
I am
war in
very
Israel for Sansol? So you're saying that there's two ways to do war, basically. Paraphrasing, there's a crappy way to do war, and there's a quick, efficient way or a good way to do war. What is the correct approach that should be happening in your point of view that will end what's happening now?
To be clear, when it comes to this, I don't know what a better strategy for Israel is. I'm not one of those people that's going to say like, oh, well, they're like bombing indiscriminately. I don't think that they are bombing indiscriminately. I think that there's enough evidence that like they're not doing a genocide or anything like that.
Yeah,
I don't have a better yeah, like if they were doing a genocide, they're the worst genociders of all time, because there's more Palestinians than there ever have been. They've dropped. There's like
there'd be a whole base that's like get the hell out.
I'm just trying to like think like what genocide involves people like, having a positive population growth. What genocide involves, people, like there's 20,000 bombs dropped as of a couple of weeks ago, and the death toll was significantly lower than what you would expect for 20,000 bombs. Like it was like 1.3 deaths per bomb.
Right.
Like if they
Israel
wanted to do a genocide,
no
they could.
And killing innocent people. The only people who benefit from that are Hamas and like their, useful idiots.
Yeah, to back up Sam's point,
if putting their bases under strategic points where they can try to cause as much cataclysm as they can, like they put them under hospitals or any place that is a high density of people.
Hey, real quick, I probably am going to end the stream soon because we've been going for a while and we're way off topic anyway. But Sonasol, I wanted you to shout out your channel and everything if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm Sonsol, Sondsol. I like to talk to people who disagree with me. I have a lot of fun with it. It doesn't have to be like a knockout, blood sports, whatever. I like to understand why people believe the things that they do. And sometimes I do get into blood sports stuff because people really irritate the fuck out of me.
And
but I'll fight anyone on the left or the right.
Yeah, he's actually has all the smarts of like Destiny, but like none of the like annoying weird stuff. So that's my opinion of him.
Which annoying weird stuff do I avoid?
Personal attacks.
He just gets like,
I
would get into. I could play the video.
Yeah, but you don't.
No, he
Okay, sorry.
just gets weird. He gets weird. Like I could get into it. We could get into it.
Like what you just posted on Twitter.
Can we give Atlas a chance before you get into it, or any closing statements for the stream before that?
Yeah, I want to give Tyler a chance here. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say I'm going to play Dota. It's been real. I'll see you next Thursday.
All right. Thanks
for chilling, dude. I know you weren't going to make it
coming in, man.
Good turnout.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Thanks, and love your dogs. Yeah, Atlas, dude. Thanks for hanging out, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome here. You're welcome here. And I personally, I've always liked your influence here and your hanging out in the Discord and all that. So I hope you keep doing that.
Well, I just rub people the wrong way. Appreciate.
That's okay. I like
go one extra mile. I'll see you later.
Yep.
Have a good day, man.
But oh yeah, and the rest of you, Forg, do you have anything you want to say?
No.
And we can keep hanging out and talking, but I know we've been going on for a while.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get off here in a little bit.
Yeah, okay, that's
we
cool.
can talk for a couple of minutes.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm good too. I'm about to get off here. So, yeah.
Right.
Hey,
well,
everybody, thanks for watching,
guys.
Just say everybody have a blessed night. Stay safe. Keep the strong energy.
You know.
Say again.
I think we actually had a good time with this, even though we had a bit of hiccups,
Yeah, we're still getting this thing. We're still getting this thing together, but yeah, we'll get there.
Smooth,
eventually.
man. What was the problem?
I need to invest more time, and it's hard for me.
I think it went fine.
Someday when my kids get a little bit older, it'll be easier.
Well, hold on. What is like the major holdback? What is the
for me?
What is it that you're? Yeah. What's
well,
holding you
it
back
sucks
from doing more
because
stuff
like I feel
this?
like it's like it's hurt my channel too. But I'm just like I'm a stay-at-home dad. My wife works. I do YouTube full time, and it used to pay the bills, not so much these days. But I'm with 4 kids, one 1-year-old. She's about to turn 1-year-old, and they're all young. One's in school. I'm sorry, 2's in school. 3rd's about to go in school. But it's really hard for me to like have time to do anything for this stuff because it's just always stuff going on.
Hey, argue with Alex Jones. That'll get you out there.
And
what do you think?
It's my job to wash dishes and do laundry and all that stuff too.
Hold on, I'm gonna go ahead and hop out. All right, love you guys.
All
I'll
right.
catch you guys later. If you guys want to
Nice
talk about
talking
any
with
of
you,
these
man.
things, like
Yep, later, man.
individually,
Well, I gotta get
shoot me a message.
Debate me, bro.
Appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely,
All right.
debate me, bro.
Thanks for coming, dude.
I'm gonna mute you guys just for a second here. Hey everybody, just wanted to thank you all for watching, and we're gonna keep doing this. I know it's really rough, and I don't really know what I'm doing. I got some equipment here, some hardware that's supposed to help me, but I haven't really had time to learn how to use it and do all that. It should make it easier at some point, but as I was just talking about, most of my life is dedicated to my kids and my family right now, and I still love this channel. Don't get me wrong. This channel is my life and my job, and I'm still into it. But, geez, like I just don't have so much time for it anymore. It sucks. My whole day is spent doing kid stuff and house stuff, and then my wife gets home in the evening, and then I come down here and I try to work, and I also try to work during nap time, which we're talking like maybe an hour or 2, if I even get that. So, yeah, everybody, I really appreciate you still watching this channel and coming to watch me and the content I'm offering, and I appreciate it, and I hope you keep coming back, and I will see you all on the next one. Good night.